Good day, children. Today we are going to have a lovely lesson again on greenery. That is, we are going to study about the reproduction in these wonderful plants. Okay, so let's begin with the introduction. You know that one of the characteristic features of living organisms is that they reproduce. Each living organism multiplies and produces young ones of its own kind. Plants produce seeds to form new plants. Birds lay eggs that hatch, and the young ones grow into adults. What is the need to reproduce? All living organisms have a fixed lifespan. Each organism is born. It grows into an adult performing all activities, and in due course of time it dies. When the organisms die, they leave individuals of its own kind by reproducing. If they would not reproduce, then there would be no organism left on the planet, isn't it? The production of a new individual from their parents is known as reproduction. But how do plants reproduce? There are different modes of reproduction in plants, which we are going to learn in this chapter, and we are going to have a lovely session. Okay, children? Are we ready? Yes, must everybody say. Well, different modes of reproduction. Take some seeds and sow them in soil. Water them regularly. What do you observe after a few days? After some days, new saplings come out of the seeds. Do you know whether all the plants reproduce from seeds? You know, flowers are reproductive parts of the plant. Did you know that? If not, learn it now. Which are the reproductive parts of the plant? Flowers. The male reproductive part, called stamen, produces pollen grains, male gamete, and the female reproductive part is called the pistil, produces the egg. That's the female gamete. Seeds are formed by the fusion of male gamete with the female gamete. This type of reproduction is called sexual reproduction. There are several ways by which plants produce their saplings. These are categorized into two types, asexual reproduction and sexual reproduction. Let us learn about these two methods in detail. Now, this is how the germination takes place, okay? Germination of seed in maize. This is about the maize. Now, these are the radicals. These are the coleoptile, okay? And these are the foliage leaves. All right. Now let's proceed further. Can we grow new plants without seed? Yes, there are some plants which grow without seeds. Asexual reproduction is the formation of new individuals from the cell of a single parent. This process of reproduction does not involve fusion of male and female gametes. It's common among plants. Unicellular organisms like bacteria and some algae and fungi. The new individuals produced by asexual reproduction are completely identical to their parents. Vegetative reproduction is a type of asexual reproduction in which new plants are produced from different parts of the plants, such as roots, stems, leaves, and buds. The common forms of asexual reproduction are budding, fission, binary as well as multiple, fragmentation, spore formation. Now let's see what is budding. Okay, this is the budding in the yeast. Here it's in the vegetative cell. Here the bud develops, and here it has a daughter cell. This kind of asexual reproduction is observed in microscopic organisms like yeast. In this process, a small projection arises from the parent's body. This projection is called bud. The bud gradually increases in size and develops all its cellular organelles. Finally, it detaches from the parent and forms independent yeast. Binary fission. In some unicellular organisms like bacteria, the parent cell divides into two daughter cells. These daughter cells divide again to produce more cells. This kind of division is called binary fission. Now let's proceed further to fragmentation. Fragmentation is a very common form of asexual reproduction in lower plants. In this process, the parent body breaks into several pieces, each of which become an independent offspring. You might have seen slimy green patches in ponds or in other water bodies. These green patches are called algae. Now this is how the binary fission in bacteria takes place. See this over here? I want you to draw these figures and label all this. Alright, this is the septum formation, this is the cell formation, and here this is the binary fission in bacteria. You have to, this is how the binary fission in bacteria takes place. Kindly draw this structure over here, okay, neatly in your books. That's nice. Even this you have to draw, even this you have to do the sketch, all with pencil. There's no need of any color as such. And of course you can do pencil shading, that will give also a lovely look. When nutrients are available in water, algae multiply rapidly by fragmentation. An alga breaks into two or more fragments. These fragments now grow into new individuals. This process continues and soon the algae cover a large area of water body in a short span of time. Fragmentation is frequently observed in pond silk, that is Spirogyra. Okay, this is the fragmentation of Spirogyra. Here is the nucleus, this is the septa, this is the spiral chloroplast. Okay, spore formation. Lower plants like ferns or mosses multiply asexually by forming spores. The spores are very small and each of them is covered by a hard protective shell to survive in unfavorable conditions such as a high temperature, scarcity of water and lack of food. A single plant cell can give rise to numerous spores under favorable conditions. The spores give rise to new individuals. This is spores from a fern leaf. The spore formation in mosses. Okay, these are spore formation in fungus. So what is this once again, children? Spores on fern leaf, spore formation in mosses, and spore formation in fungus. I want you to draw all these sketches. This is sporangium. These are the spores. These are sporangiophore. These are the germinating spore, stolon and rhytoids. Now let's move further to vegetative reproduction. In lower plants, the plant body itself detached or divides to form new individuals by the process of asexual reproduction. But in higher plants, new plants can also develop from a part of the parent body. This part is called vegetative part. The formation of a new plant from the vegetative parts of a parent plant is called vegetative reproduction. This is an asexual method of reproduction. Vegetative parts of the plants like stem, root or leaves are involved in this type of reproduction. There are two ways in which vegetative reproduction takes place, that is by natural method and artificial method. Okay, now we are going to learn about the natural methods, but before that let's see what this activity 2 is all about. The production of a fruit without fertilization is called parthenocarpy. What is it called? Parthenocarpy. What is it called? Parthenocarpy. On the other hand, the formation of new individuals from an unfertilized egg is called parthenogenesis. What is it called, children? Parthenogenesis. Make a list of fruits that are produced by parthenocarpy and parthenogenesis. Now this is what you are going to do it on your own, and I'm on the list. Okay, now let's see the natural methods. By roots, plants showing vegetative reproduction by roots develop adventitious buds and roots. These buds give rise to new plants under favorable conditions. These roots have stored in them. Plants like dahlia, guava, sweet potato reproduce by this method. By stems. Stems are the most common part of vegetative reproduction. Many plants propagate and form new plants through their stems. Following are the different types of vegetative reproduction by stems. Tuberose, a swollen stem that stores food, is known as tuber. A tuber has some depression called eyes. Each eye has one or more buds from which new plants arise. Potato reproduces by forming tubers. If a potato is planted in the soil, the roots arise from its eyes and new plants grow. Okay, rhizome. Underground fleshy stems that store food are known as rhizome. They have distinct nodes and internodes and buds. The buds give rise to new plants in favorable conditions. Ginger, turmeric and banana reproduce by this process. Bulbs. Bulbs are also underground stems encased in thick fleshy bulb scales. These scales are modified leaves and store food. The new plant arising from the bulb takes food from the fleshy scales. Bulbs are found in onion plants. Then we have the runner. Some plants grow horizontal stems parallel to the ground. They are called runners. These stems contain nodes from which new plants grow. Oxalis and grass propagate by this method. Sucker. In mint and chrysanthemum, underground stems are divided into nodes and internodes. Okay, now sweet potato, this is how it reproduces. This is a tuber potato. This is how the reproduction takes place, and in rhizome, the ginger, this is how it happens. Okay, now these are runner plants. This is an onion bulb. I want you to do all these sketches and label them just the way as it is over here. Okay, now we move to the new shoots. New shoots develop from nodes. When the internodal regions decay, each shoot separates and forms a new plant. These plants are called suckers. I mean, here what I wanted to tell you is we continued with the suckers. Okay, now we are done with the suckers. We are going to corm. Corm is an underground stem with scale leaves and buds. In favorable conditions, the buds give rise to new plants. Colchicea and gladiolus reproduce by this method. Now these are sucker plants. This is how it happens, and this is corm. Okay, understood, children? So you're going to draw these sketches too, and as you draw, you will understand everything about it. Okay, now let's move further by leaves. Some plants like bryophyllum sprout leaf plant to reproduce by their leaves. They develop from the margins of their leaves. These buds develop into independent plants when the leaf falls off from the parent plant. Other plants showing this kind of reproduction are lilium and begonia. This is bryophyllum. Can you see here? Good. Artificial methods. Plant breeders have developed many artificial means of vegetative propagation in plants. Some of these methods are discussed below. Cutting. Cutting in this method, a part of the stem is cut and placed in moist soil. After some days, a new plant develops from the cut off part. Coleus, rose, bougainvillea, sugarcane and are easily propagated by cutting method. Layering. In layering, a lower branch of the stem is bent and buried under the soil. The growing tip remains above the soil surface. After some days, roots grow from the part buried in the soil. Okay, let's see this activity at the tree. Take a bryophyllum leaf and place it in the moist soil in a container. Take care that the margins of the leaf remain in touch with the moist soil. Observe the leaf for 2 to 3 days. Some small plants with fine roots and shoots will come out from the notches of the leaf. Now separate a small plant from the leaf. notch and plant it in soil in another pot. In a few days, you will find that a mature bryophyllum plant develops in the pot. Now this is layering, okay? This part is cut from the parent plant and planted as a new independent plant. This method is used in independent plant. This method is used in propagating plants like jasmine, strawberry and bougainvillea. So this was the continuation of layering. Got it, children? Now we move, after layering we move to grafting. In grafting, a part of the stem is cut and then is placed over the cut stem of another plant. The desired plant is derived from the two different individuals. The root portion taken from one plant is called the stalk, while the stem portion taken from another plant is called the scion. Okay, the grafting ends of the stalk and the scion are obliquely cut and placed face to face. Then the two ends are tied tightly. Scion is a plant which one wants to propagate, and so it is grafted onto the stalk. Grafting is used extensively in ornamental and fruit plants. Children, grafting is interesting. When I was in 7th standard, just like you are, I had tried grafting and I succeeded. Of course, we had a garden in my hometown. We had a garden of our own. Okay, with lots of plants, and I did venture into grafting and I was successful. You can still try, okay? So it's very nice. This is the same procedure that I followed, and of course I was proud that I achieved, I was successful in grafting. Okay, then let's move further to tissue culture. This is the latest technique of vegetative propagation used by horticulturists. In this method, a tissue. Now I want you to learn what is horticulturing. Okay, children? I mean, by surfing the net, it is something very interesting and it's a happening thing right now all over the world. In this method, a tissue is taken from any part of a plant. It is then kept in a suitable laboratory conditions in a suitable medium. The plant tissue then rapidly grows in the medium. The growing saplings are then planted in moist soil. This technique is also called micropropagation. Since in a very short time, unlimited number of plants can be produced, this technique is being used for propagation of disease-free plants. Okay, steps of tissue culture. These are the steps. There's nothing like try it out. Okay. Activity 4, visit a garden near your house. Ask the gardener about various plant parts that he uses to grow new plants. Now complete the following table based on this information. Children, if you are not able to venture out, you can surf the net and find out about it and fill in this activity. Okay, let's move further. We have now come to the advantages of vegetative reproduction. Vegetative reproduction is an easier, rapid and less expensive method of propagation. Plants can be grown in much less time. Seedless plants can be produced by this method. Plants produced by this method are identical copies of parent plant and show no variations. Plants like banana, sugar, sweet potato, rose and jasmine do not produce viable seeds. Such plants can be easily grown by this method. Let's move further to sexual reproduction. In the plant kingdom, only flowering plants can reproduce sexually. Flowers are the reproductive organs of a plant. You know that the flower has 4 parts, that is, the sepals, petals, stamen and the carpel. The flowers having all 4 parts are called complete flowers, and the flowers in which one of the parts is missing are called incomplete flowers. Of these 4 parts, stamens and carpels take part in sexual reproduction. The stamen is the male reproductive part of a flower and the pistil or carpel is the female reproductive part of a flower. The stamens bear anthers that contain pollen grains. Pollen grains have male gametes in them. The carpel is divided into three parts, that is the stigma, style and ovary. The ovary contains the female gametes in them. Okay, now this is, I want you to do the sketch of the flower and label all these parts. Okay, and as you label, you will learn what do they stand for. Okay, in sexual reproduction, we'll come back to this. Let me finish this here. In sexual reproduction, one male gamete fuses with a female gamete and forms the initial stage of a baby plant. The baby plant grows inside the seed and the seed gives rise to a sapling under favorable atmospheric conditions. Now let's see about this person, Matthias Schleiden, 1804 to 1881. Matthias Jacob Schleiden was a German botanist. Now, when you're studying about plants, children, I want to tell you that you're doing botany under science. There is botany and zoology. So, here currently, when you're studying about plants, it's known as botany is the study of plants and zoology is the study of animals. So, coming back to here, Matthias Jacob Schleiden was a German botanist and co-founder of the famous cell theory, along with Theodor Schwann and Rudolf Virchow. Born in Hamburg, Schleiden studied at Heidelberg and developed his hobby of botany into a full-time pursuit. Schleiden preferred to study plant structure under the microscope. While a professor of botany at the University of Jena, he wrote contributions to Pythogenesis in 1838, in which he stated that different parts of a plant are composed of cells. Schleiden was one of the first German biologists to accept Charles Darwin's theory of evolution. He became a professor of botany at the University of Dorpat in 1863. Okay, now let's move further to pollination. Now, what's pollination is what we are going to look about. The transfer of pollen grains from anther to stigma is known as pollination. Pollination is the first step of seed formation. There are two types of pollination. That is self-pollination, the transfer of pollen grains from anther to stigma of the same flower is known as self-pollination. Cross-pollination, the transfer of pollen grains from anther of one flower to the stigma of another flower of the same kind is called cross-pollination. Now this is a diagram, children, self and cross-pollination. I want you to do this exact sketch and just like this only. It is easy to draw. It all depends on your drawing, okay, and your love for art. Now let's proceed further to the agents of pollination. Generally, pollen grains have a tough protective coat which prevents them from drying up. Since pollen grains are light, they can be carried by wind, water or insects or other animals. They are called the agents of pollination. However, most flowers are pollinated by insects. Going to wind, pollen grains are transferred from the anthers of one flower to the stigma of another flower when wind blows away. Wind-pollinated flowers have the following features. First one, they have small petals, often brown or dull green in color. They are not scented. They do not have nectar. They produce large amount of pollens. Their pollens are very light and smooth so that they can easily be blown by the wind. Their anthers are loosely attached so that they can easily be released into the wind. Their stigma hangs outside the flower to catch the flying pollen grains. Flowers of wheat, rice, maize, etc. are pollinated by wind. Got it, children? And children, if it is possible, if you get a chance to visit the field, you will feel great over there. If not, if it's not possible, then surf the net and visit the different fields of flowers as well as grains. You will have a wonderful time. Okay, now let's move to the insects. Many insects visit flowers for nectar. During the process, some of the pollen grains stick to their bodies. When these insects visit another flower of the same kind, the pollen grains fall on the stigma and sexual reproduction takes place. Further, following are the features of insect pollinated plants. They generally have large, brightly colored petals. They are often sweetly scented. Pollens are sticky or spiky to stick to insects. Stigma has sticky coating so that the pollen stick to it. Flowers of sweet pea, orchids, buttercup, etc. are pollinated by insects. You see the insect, this is the honeybee, it's pollinating this flower. It's lovely, isn't it? Okay. Watch a scenario on this net as to how the pollination takes place. You'll enjoy that too. Fertilization. The process of fusion of male and female gametes is called fertilization. A male gamete is usually small, whereas the female gamete is larger than the male gamete. During fertilization, the following events takes place. The pollen grains germinate on the stigma. It forms pollen tubes that move downwards through the style to the ovary. One pollen tube carries the male gamete. The male gamete finally enters the ovary where the female gamete is present. Finally, the male gamete fuses with the female gamete. The cell formed as a result of fusion of two gametes is called zygote. The zygote has the characters of both the parents. It develops into an embryo by repetitive cell division. This is the fertilization in the female reproductive organ. This is how it takes place. Okay, children? Now let's see the activity 5. I want you to do the sketch, okay, and label all these parts. Take a cavity slide. A cavity slide is a microscope slide with a small cavity in it. Put a few drops of 3% sugar solution in the cavity with the help of a fine brush. Collect some pollen grains from a mature anther and dust them on sugar solution. Place a cover slip on the cavity of the slide. Now leave the slide undisturbed for about 10 minutes and then observe it under the microscope. What do we observe? You will find small tubes coming out from the pollen grains. These are pollen tubes that contain male gametes. Formation of fruit. After zygote formation, several changes occur in the flower. These are: the flower loses its bright color, the sepals and petals fall off, the stigma and style degenerate and fall off, the ovary ripens and forms the fruit. The ovules containing store food convert to form seeds. And then the zygote divides, grows and forms the embryo that is enclosed in the seed. Some fruits are fleshy and juicy, such as mango, apple and orange. Some fruits are hard like almonds and walnuts. Examine a pea fruit and a mango fruit. Remove the outer covering of both these fruits. What do we observe? In case of the pea, once the outer green covering is removed, the rounded seeds become visible. The fruit wall in pea is thin and dry. In a mango fruit, after the removal of the outer covering, you will find the edible fleshy part. There is a hard part inside when you eat the mango. This hard part contains the seed. The fruit wall of mango has 3 layers. Outer skin or epicarp, middle fleshy portion or mesocarp, inner stony wall or endocarp. Now this is the structure of a pea seed. This is the storage cotyledon, embryonic axis, and this is the seed coat. I want you to do the sketch and label the parts too. Functions of fruits. The fruit wall gives protection to the seeds and the embryo. The fruit is a storehouse of food material. The fruit helps in dispersal of seeds. Now going further, we have the formation of seed. Seed is the ripened ovule which contains an embryo. Take a pea seed, remove its green coat. Do you see two semicircular halves, these are called cotyledons. Cotyledons contain the food and protect the embryo inside them. Thus, a seed contains an embryo, one or two cotyledons and a protective seed coat. The embryo, after germination of the seed, develops into a new plant. The cotyledons often contain reserve food material for the developing plant. Under suitable conditions, the seed gives rise to a new plant. This process is called germination. A seed germinates only if the suitable conditions such as air, water and temperature are available. If the conditions are not favorable, then the seed needs to be carried or dispersed to places where conditions are favorable. Now let's see what this DUU has in store for us. Each species of plant has a specific period of viability. Seeds sown after the period of optimum viability may produce weak plants or may not germinate. Some seeds, such as those of a willow, are viable for a few days after falling from the parent tree. Other seeds are viable for years. For example, seeds of the oriental lotus have been known to germinate even 3000 years after dispersal. Now, this is a lotus flower. Dispersal of seeds and fruits. Dispersal of seeds and fruits. In nature, some kinds of plants grow at different places. This happens because seeds are dispersed to different places. The process by which seeds of fruits are scattered is called dispersal. What is dispersal? The process by which the seeds of fruits are dispersed is scattered. Okay, is called dispersal. Moving further, can you imagine what would happen if the seeds were to germinate near the plant itself and not get dispersed to distant places? Each seed requires space, mineral, sunlight and water for growth and development. If the seeds produced from a plant grow around it, they would compete with each other for these resources, and due to their deficiency, these seeds may eventually die. And if they die, what happens? Will not have sufficient plants. The dispersal of seeds can be carried out by various methods or agents. Some of these are described as below. This, what you learned in all these years, we are going back through it again and again. When I read it, you will recollect. By wind, certain seeds have developed several adaptive modifications which help them to be dispersed by wind easily. A few examples are given below. Madar seeds are small and dry. A fine tuft of fine hair is present on the tip of each seed. These fine hairs help the seeds to be carried to far off places by wind. Seeds of cotton and dandelion have hairs around them for dispersal by wind. Some seeds like grass are light in weight so that they can be carried by wind easily. By water, some seeds are dispersed by water. They too have some special features to be dispersed by water. For example, coconut fruits fall in water, and being fibrous, they float in water and are carried away by water currents. By animals, certain seeds are carried to far off places by animals. Animals eat seeds along with the fruits. These seeds remain undigested and are dispersed through feces. For example, African olive fruits are dispersed to far off places by foxes. Fruits are adapted in different ways to form dispersal. Sometimes the seeds are automatically set free by opening of the fruit. An explosion bursts and the fruit opens to release the seed. Such fruits are called dehiscent fruits. For example, pea seeds. Okay, but very often both fruits and seeds together form the dispersal unit. These types of fruits are called non-dehiscent fruits. Okay, now this is the seed, these are the seeds of dandelion and maple. This is the green coconut. All of us like coconut water, isn't it? And the coconut fruit too. And this is xanthium seed being dispersed. Okay, this is how it gets dispersed. All right. Now let's see what does Do You Know have in store for us. All living organisms reproduce to give rise to young ones of their own kind. There are two modes of reproduction, asexual and sexual. Asexual reproduction involves single parent. Plant breeders have developed artificial methods of vegetative propagation. Sexual reproduction involves two parents. Two types of gametes are formed in this mode of reproduction. In higher plants, flowers contain the reproductive organs. Stamens are male reproductive organs and carpel is a female reproductive organ of a flower. Pollination involves the transfer of pollen grains from anthers to stigma. Dispersal of seeds occur with the help of wind, water and animals. Let's see some important definitions, children. What is reproduction? The production of a new individual from their parent is reproduction. What is sexual reproduction? Reproduction involving fusion of gametes is known as sexual reproduction. What is asexual reproduction? The formation of a new individual from the cells of a single parent is known as asexual reproduction. What is vegetative reproduction? The formation of a new plant from the vegetative parts of a parent plant. What is budding? A sexual mode of reproduction in which a small outgrowth or bud appears on the body of the organism. What is regeneration? The ability of living things to repair themselves or to grow lost parts. What is grafting? Artificial method of vegetative propagation in which the desired plant is obtained from two different individuals. What is pollination? It is a transfer of pollen grains from the anthers to the stigma. What is gamete? It is the reproductive cells produced from the reproductive organs of plants and animals. What is fertilization? It is a fusion of male and female gametes. What is dispersal? This is the process by which dispersal of fruits are scattered. Children, I hope you had a fantastic time on this beautiful journey of reproduction in plants. See you soon and happy listening and happy understanding. Thank you.